So thank you for that.
Great. So yeah, my interest in work in this began about 15 years ago through nonviolent communication. That's where I know Raj from, and the work with Marshall Rosenberg. I love Marshall Rosenberg's work. I'm a huge fan of it. But also I see it as one way of teaching empathy, and I've come to recognize that not everybody resonates with that way. And also that there's confusion around everyone who learns that way doesn't always fully understand it. So I think there's a real need to create a common understanding around what is empathy, and with a common understanding around what is empathy, that also informs how we teach empathy and what are the components of empathy. So I'm really interested in helping to clear up what I see as a lot of misconceptions out there in the field around the different definitions about what empathy is and how we can teach it and learn it.
Oh, great, thanks. See, next down is Raj, I think, on the list. And you're muted.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm very interested in Marshall Rosenberg's work, and a practitioner of nonviolent communication, a certified trainer. What I find most valuable about Marshall's work is that if we focus very much just on the language of empathy, that is very different to what is my mindset. So it's important to look at mindset and skill set, and not just use the language as a means of, that's why it doesn't resonate for some people if it's so language-based, because people say, unless you speak that way, you won't be understood. So it's not so much about the speaking part as about the being part. So yeah, a communication and a leadership coach, and I love the work of empathy, and would like to make empathy as a first response for everything.
Okay, so I'm also taking some notes, so feel free to add any extra comments, because I would like to put this material on the website. So I made a few comments as you were speaking. So Salvador?
Hello, I'm Salvador. I live in Guadalajara, Mexico. I'm a psychologist. I was trained as a person-centered psychotherapist. So I got very interested in the issue of empathy. But since I work at the university with graduate students in psychotherapy and human development programs, I met the difficulty that the students have to develop, to learn how to be empathic with other people. Later, I found out the work of Eugene Gendlin about the philosophy of the implicit focusing. So from there, I started developing a model with different facets that help me to organize different activities to help the students to become more empathic. So I have been very excited about the results that I have been happening with the students. And now I'm really interested to join and to share this with other people, to learn more about this. And also I would like to have a space for people with Spanish-speaking people that have difficult to communicate in English. So I'm glad to be here this morning.
Oh, great, welcome. So next was Jennifer.
Hi, I'm Jennifer McCabe, and I teach 4 skills of relationship competency, 2 of which are empathy related. One is empathic listening, and the other is empathy. The other 2 are congruence and unconditional positive regard. I sort of come out of that tradition from Rogers and person-centered approach. I run a business called Pluck with Purpose, and we teach relationship skills to sort of purpose-driven professionals, people that work in service to others, so that they are better able to do the work that they are meant to do. A lot of those folks are physicians and nurses and military officers, which surprised me, but that's we've got a very interesting cohort of clients. So I come at this from a variety of traditions. My background is in nursing, but I've studied sort of human interaction from a variety of perspectives, and just kind of settled in on these skills of relationship competency. So I'm looking forward to just kind of hearing where everyone's at. I'm already hearing these distinct differences in their approach to empathy, and I think that's just gold and wonderful. So I'm excited to dig into that and to see if I've got something to contribute as far as the work of an association.
Great. Stefan?
Yeah, now I'm unmuted. Yes, I live in Munich, Germany, and I came to learn about NVC about 5 years ago, and ever since I've went to courses and kind of trying to put that into action in my daily life, and I kind of find that yeah, I find it hard, but I see bits and pieces here and there where it really has a good contribution, and I really love to have that more around me. And I'd really like to kind of facilitate or be part of some bigger thing of giving it to the world, or just yeah, training people, facilitate something in regards to empathy, because I see it in all interactions in daily life, in work, and with other people, that I want more of it, and I kind of want to be listened to in an empathic way. I feel I don't get enough of it, but I know I can only do when I try to do it and carry it forward in some way. Sometimes I feel I should do more, or I'd love to do more, but I don't really know what my impact can be. So I'm trying to find out and see at what scale I'm able to do. So I'm here to learn.
Great, welcome. Craig?
Hey everybody. I'm just respecting some other folks in the environment to not have the camera on today. So hopefully that's cool. But I'm enjoying hearing everybody and connecting, as I think Catherine said, quite a widespread set of interests and ways of expressing. I actually first came to empathy really strong request to the universe after a painful breakup of, hey, how can people get along better? I mean, I really asked life myself, and I actually interviewed like 15 or so people in my life to kind of just get wisdom nuggets. And then I often I have led and teach and guide all about dreams and lucid dreaming. And my dreams started guiding me 3 dreams, which is a lot. That means, like, if you don't follow this, we're going to take you off the planet kind of seriously. It led me to start working with Marshall Rosenberg and the NBC work, and then a number of other teachers too. So that was kind of how I got called to it, I guess, from an inner question that created law of attraction to different teachers and events, and found it a really amazing piece in the whole model that I teach, lucid living, of healthier relationships. I love how it can serve people to connect more, sort of have their needs met in groups or in pairs and things. But I guess primary fascination is really for personal growth, sort of the other person as a mirror. Some of the more psychology methods of seeing the different elements of somebody else. If we react, or if we can't respond or hold presence, what is that saying about us? Which ends up being super empowering, and there's some fun principles in there too. So it's a bit of my interest.
Okay, thank you for that. And so what I was looking at for this meeting is to start with these introductions that we write out, our intention and a little bit of an introduction, and share those. And that then we go through, in our last meeting, what seemed to work was we do mutual interviews for 5 minutes about our thoughts about our needs for an Empathy Trainers Association. So we'll go around and interview each other. And the people who aren't being doing the interviewing or interviewee, that we will transcribe what it is that they're saying so we can capture their thoughts, and then we'll do one round of mutual interviews, and then we'll do another round of generating ideas of what to do next, kind of come up with some next steps for building the association. And so if on the page here you can see page 3 is what are some good questions to ask each other about our personal needs and wishes for Trainers Association. So we're really doing a needs finding here. So if you have done NBC, you've got good skills, hopefully, for really digging into finding out what the person you're going to interview, what their needs are for an association, and for doing training. So I already put in some questions, and everyone can write in 1 or 2 or 3 questions that you think would be good to ask. So some questions I put in already is, what are your why are you interested in forming the International Empathy Trainers Association? What painful feelings do you have around being an empathy trainer and teacher? So it's kind of like, what are those unmet needs that you have? And are there any stories, personal stories you like to share about that? And then on the other side is, what positive feelings do you have around being an empathy trainer, teacher? And what are the met needs? So what is this really bringing to you as addressing needs for you? And do you have any stories around that? And why is it important to teach empathy? So within the human-centered design process, one way of doing an interview is you find out what someone's needs are, and then you say, why is that important? And you kind of dig deeper and deeper. Well, why is that important? Why is that important? So you do, like, you ask 5 times the question, why, about what you're hearing. So those are just some kind of questions we can ask. We want to let's take about 4 or 5 minutes, and everyone write at least one question and more, and then we'll begin the kind of mutual kind of interviews. I'm just setting up some interview space here down below. Okay, can we go around then? And it looks like people are still writing. I'll wait for everyone. Okay, so I'll just go through and read. So number 5 was what do you think is an effective way to, in a brief interaction, spoken, written, to get across to people the value of empathic skills such that they don't think something to the effect of, but I already know how to communicate. Number 6, what are obstacles for you in being empathic? What could help in such a situation? Number 7, what is your definition of empathy? Number 8, what for would you like to be a member of the Empathy Trainers Association? What is your definition of empathy? So we have that one twice. And what role does empathy play in the global movement for peace? Okay, so those are just some ideas to kind of stimulate your interview. And but you're free to use any questions that you want. I'm going to bring up the timer here. It's a 10-minute stopwatch. So we'll have 5 minutes to do mutual interviews. And if you go down to the following page, let me create the page numbers. 1 second. How do we set show page numbers format? I'm not really sure. So anyway, it's page 4. So we would start with Michael interviewing Raj, and you'll have 5 minutes to interview her about some of those questions, especially trying to find her needs that could be addressed, met or unmet, for the Empathy Trainers Association, but it's totally open. You can ask whatever you want. And the rest of us will transcribe what it is that we're hearing. And take it away, Michael.
Great. Thanks, Edwin. Hi, Raj.
Hi, Michael. Good to see you again.
Great to see you. I'm excited I get to interview you. Can you tell me, Raj, why empathy is important for you?
Empathy is important to me so that I can really hear what people are saying and not making assumptions that people know what somebody is going to say or what somebody believes. It's about really understanding each other without assumptions and judgments. I want to be seen for who I am, not for who other people think I am.
And so inherent in that, I guess, is sort of what is empathy?
Empathy is listening. Empathy is being with another, with a real mind of curiosity about. If I was doing that kind of being with you, I would say, I want to know everything about Michael because I don't really know Michael. Instead of, oh yeah, I know him from before, here's who he is, and just not be present with you. I like to say, as soon as I say I know, I say the word I know, I've lost connection with the now.
And so why would it be important for empathy trainers to create an organization that has some kind of purpose in the empathy training world?
I think if we're going to optimize our performances, our contributions, so much of workplaces have gone into obedience and compliance and have become mediocre in terms of performance because they're so afraid of being judged or blamed or compared that just let me do what's needed and get out of here, so that's all I'm going to do. So how can we create a world in which people bring their optimal performance to work, in which they give in a way that's joyful for them?
So much of our world is around the way that we choose to make a living. And so you see bringing this mindset into the workforce is a really important part of what the planet needs right now.
Right, because I think a lot of us believe emotions should be left out at the door. They have no place in the workplace. And so we're not bringing our full selves to the workplace.
Mm.
We're not showing up with the energy and the excitement that could be possible through innovation, creativity, curiosity.
Mm. And what could be possible if we were to really harness the potential of people in that way?
We could share responsibility for creating the kind of world that we want to live in, instead of playing the blame shame game about whose fault is it and who's doing things wrong. How can we punish them, or how can we eliminate them?
Mm.
Yeah.
I I love how this feels so enticing to people who already are on board with empathy. And I'm curious, what would you say to people who don't think that empathy is useful?
I'd get really curious about what would be helpful.
Mm.
You know, instead of selling them on the idea of empathy, I would say, what would create optimal performance in the workplace? What would make workplaces more collaborative?
Mm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so doing what you're saying, basically.
Yeah, I'd dig deeper and ask them, okay, so what's your idea about? I'm not proposing my strategy is the best strategy or the only strategy. I want to hear what strategies you have, and then engage in a way that, because I'm really curious about what is their objection.
Mm. I love that. I really get the sense, you know, putting this in the context of the Empathy Trainers Association, how part of the role of that association is to come forward with that kind of curiosity.
Yeah, instead of saying, oh, they don't like my training, they don't like Marshall's work, and become defensive about it. Even when I work in the prison, you know, when the guys say to me, well, the other fellows are not going to like this touchy-feely stuff, I said, you're not selling them on empathy. You're demonstrating how it supports you in your life.
Mm. Hmm. Yeah, so focusing on the benefits and the results rather than on the process of
That's
empathy.
right. That's right. What is it giving you? Share that rather than trying to sell them on, you need to come to these workshops.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Right.
that's the time. That's our 5 minutes. So then, Raj, would you interview Salvador?
Right. Okay, Michael, the tables are turned now, I guess.
To
Great, thanks,
Salvador,
Raj.
if you interview
Sorry, am I interviewing Michael?
Salvador. So we'll go all the way around. It's like a circle.
Oh, right. Okay, that's right. Oh, I'm so excited to interview Salvador. Yeah. I work in Costa Rica and Latin America a lot and love Spanish-speaking people. So tell me about your experience with empathy.
Well, I think that my first experience was when I was in therapy.
Mm.
And I was really surprised to find somebody who really listened to me and tried to understand me without making any judgment, without telling me what to do, what was right or what was wrong, with very warm feelings, accepting me in a personal way. So that I guess that was my first impact, I will say, because it was a very strong experience to me. And then when I start working as a psychotherapist, and I found out how when I was able to be empathic with the people, and I can see the changes and how they feel and how they move to a more real way of being in her lives, in their lives, that was another very important experience to me. And later I started teaching at the university, and there it was like a very big challenge to me promote to help the students to learn to be empathic. And that was another very important experience because I start trying to experiment with different activities, the different ways of promoting empathy. And later I start finding out that some ways were better than others. And that really excited me to trying to understand which will be a good process to learn it, to be empathic.
Mm. So, what is empathy to you?
Empathy to me is a way of being present with another person, which implies to be open and available to feel and sense what the other people feel and sense.
Mm.
To let me feel and let me sense in my own body what the other people feel, feelings and sensations feels.
Mm-hmm.
And be open to be touched by that, to be
Mm-hmm.
changed by that,
Mm-hmm.
and then able to respond in an understanding way to that person.
Mm. So, if it's so beautiful, what's keeping us? If it's so beautiful and experience is so joyful, what keeps us from doing more of this?
I think that in a way is like it seems like there is a road against culture.
Mm.
Once a patient consultant told me, I realize that I feel better. My family tells me that they see that I'm more relaxed, more quiet. I don't find so much. I don't know why, because I come here and do not say anything, but it seems to be working in a way.
Mm.
So surprised me what they say, that I don't say anything. And I understood that she meant that I don't say anything that culturally will be expected that I will say as something useful, like give advice, to tell her if it was wrong and if it was right. I didn't say anything about that, so she said I don't say anything.
Mm.
So I think that in the culture there is some difficulties to appreciate the value of this way of interacting.
Mm. Yeah, so you're saying is that because they remain silent because they think remaining silent is more respectful?
N- She thought that since I was silent, that I was silenced because I didn't give her any advice. I
Ah.
didn't say if she was right or wrong.
Mm.
Those are the ways that people think are useful to help somebody to resolve a problem. They don't think that just listening in an understanding way will be helpful to resolve problems or to understand situations.
So I hear you say that if the culture believes that by remaining silent you and not giving advice, that's being helpful.
That's not helpful.
That's not helpful. Okay. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. What do you think we will gain if we become more empathic as a culture?
I think that we will have better interactions in our daily lives, and we will have possibilities to resolve many situations and problems in a more collaborative ways.
It sounds so beautiful when we say we'll be collaborating more, we'll be helping each other more, and so this is a way to mobilize more of empathy in schools.
Yes, yes. I think that in family and in schools are two spaces very important to pay attention how to develop empathy, and also to identify very common expressions that uh, in a way take us to be like out of contact with ourselves.
Mm. You think it will impact all this increased bullying that happens in school? It will help. It will help with that.
I didn't understand because there was an interference in the sound, so I didn't hear clearly.
Edwin, is it time to go?
Yeah, it was time. I was just
It's time to go, Salvador, another time.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. So next we have Salvador interviews Jennifer, and we're on page 5 for doing the transcription. So take it away. I'll hit that. Okay, ready?
Okay. Hi, Jennifer.
Hi, Salvador.
Uh, would you like to tell me us about why are you interested in participating in a empathy training association?
Well, I do it for a living, and I have very few like collegial connections as far as seeing or working with or hearing what other people are doing to create trainings. My training is pretty set and standardized, and I'm always looking for new ways to do it better, to kind of make it more effective and serve my clients the best that I can. So I think that's kind of what I'm up to as far as an association goes.
Yeah. So it will be like an opportunity to share and to learn something else to do your job in a better way.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. And to get some, just some connections of doing this work outside of, like, I have an entrepreneurial group that I work with because I am an entrepreneur and this is part of what I do for that work. But their focus is always very different. It's on business operations and other things like that. It's not really anchored in a bigger vision for changing the world. So I think I can already hear it here that's certainly something that's present here.
Okay. What are some of the important experiences that you have had in your job working to help other people to be empathic?
I think, we split empathy into 2 skills. So we teach empathic listening, which is the skill you choose when you want to understand the other, and we teach empathy, which is the skill you choose when the other wants to grow or feel. And so when I see like students receive empathic listening, they're seen, and and sometimes what for them it feels like for the first time or for a rare time, and I think that's something that personally gives me a lot of joy because I love finding the gold and where they're at and understanding where they are. So I get a lot from that, but I also see that they take away a lot from that. It's not just about being seen, but they also hear themselves differently for the first time, and I think that's critical. When we do empathy for us, which is being with the other while they want to grow or feel, there is a reconnecting to their self-reliance that is a really precious thing to watch, where they realize the solutions are in them and that they are in fact able to find their own path and to do it exceedingly well. So that's really cool. And that tension that you talked about with Raj, which is give me the solution, tell me what to do. It's a tough line to walk, when you've got clients saying, no, you need to tell me, and I'm like, no, we don't do that here. So I was with you when you were saying that. I was like, yeah, I get it. It's hard because people are so used to being told or given advice, and so break with that is a big deal, and the first couple times it doesn't feel so great, and then after they get into the groove they want more and more of it.
So it sounds like there are some common difficulties in the process.
Absolutely, yeah.
Besides that, do you identify another difficult situations in the learning process?
I think for me, we offer our class we teach 4 skills, and it's a 52-hour commitment. It's 4 sessions that occur over 6.5 days that occur in 4 sessions, and so there is a little bit of a commitment issue with that about getting the time away to do it. The other part that I've encountered is that communicating what the work is and what the skills are, particularly unconditional positive regard, which is a little sidetrack from what we're talking about, but that one really has to be seen to be understood. I can tell you the steps, but until you see it done in person, it doesn't translate as well. So trying to come up with ways to both show and connect at the same time has been a challenge this year, but we've put some steps in place, and it's actually starting to get some traction for us. So I hope it keeps going.
Okay, that was the time.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Thank
So-
you, Salvador.
So next is Jennifer interviews Stefan, and the rest of us are taking notes here, transcribing. That's on page 6.
Stefan? Is that
Yes.
the orange shirt? Okay, I can see you now. So I guess I want to know, what is the most important question of these questions that you want to answer? Because I think that rather than my picking one, what you have is probably better. So.
I kind of just thought, what would I ask the next person? But probably that's the same question I want to answer. Yeah, why is it important to me to teach empathy? Yeah, I kind of feel that when I'm aware of that empathy is in that very situation I'm in, either through listening or being present for the other person, it changes so much for me. It's not as much reacting to something, which I feel is always around us. That whenever someone says something, I'm very quick to react, and I feel when I'm aware enough to be and say, okay, hold back for a second and just try to be with the other person, even if it's just in a normal situation in the workplace and it has nothing to do with a special container of being empathic. That something changes. People can say what their needs are, what's important for them in that second, and I make an effort of listening and seeing that something changes, that they're feel being heard, I imagine, and those are moments when I feel it in my body as well. Then, and more or less, as I said earlier on, I'd like to have more of that myself. But even when I try to create such a situation, then it gives something to me as well. So that's that's something. And why is that important? Yeah, because I can see what it can do, and I kind of as I said, I'd love to have it more around me, and I can see how easy somehow it's not magical. That's exaggerated more. It's something then, and something shifts or changes, and I don't know what it is, and some differences and bridges are suddenly not there. Ages, I see it in work all the time. Age is not really it's not important anymore, and I love that. I like to be on the same near that person and be interested in the person. I want other people to be interested in me as well. So and why that is all about, it's I want to contribute. I want to have it to bring it out and facilitate it more. But I'm not sure how much I can do it and what impact I can have.
So kind of what I heard you say is that there is a pretty big shift in the way that people are relating to one another when empathy is present, either in one person or in both. And for you in particular, when you're doing it at work, or in any situation, you see it transform that interaction into something that might have been previously sort of listening to respond or analyze or critique, and that stops, and what happens instead is some form of connection. Did I get it?
Yeah.
Okay. And then I also heard you talking about like that because you see that opportunity and potential, you enjoy it, of course. You like that experience when you receive empathy, but then in addition, there's that turning to really make it a part of daily life, and you want that, but you're not quite sure how to go about getting it. Is that fair? Okay.
Yeah.
So what's the bigger vision? Because it sounded like you started to talk about like you see that it connects to something much bigger and broader. You talked about it transforming an interaction. What do you see kind of as the broader implications of if people are trained in empathy? What does that mean?
I don't know. It's hard for me to, of course, I can imagine like what it could look like, but I think I kind of think it's the small steps, the little interactions, and all the times when when we tend not to be present and then just try to be present. And I think it's like a ripple effect, and then probably good things can happen. But I think if I have too much of a vision, there's many visions around, but for me it distracts myself, because I kind of feel under pressure then as well of having to contribute to it. So I kind of I love to maybe find it in interactions where it's not really an intention, or wasn't an intention of mine, but then really see it in daily life. So it's that's what I always found hard, and with NVC as well, that I put myself too much under pressure to do stuff and to put things into action, and then being disappointed and being too much. So I kind of want to go the other way around and say, okay, what's possible for me? How big steps can I take without putting myself under pressure, and still wanting to contribute and want to make it bigger, and yeah.
Okay, great. That was the time. So let's see. Thank you for that. Stefan, if you want to interview Craig.
Hi, Craig.
Hey, Stefan. How you doing? I like your accent.
Thanks.
Sounds a little bit Scottish or something.
My mother is Irish, so that's probably.
Oh, Irish. Okay, there you go. Nice.
Yeah. Why is it important to you to teach empathy?
Well, I love to share whatever I've learned. In fact, it's a need. I sort of see it almost like universal. Like a plant grows, I guess takes in sunlight, air, and all the things, the food from the earth, water from the rain, and then shares fruit. Same thing that we do. I learned lots of skills and had insights and powerful experiences of connection, harmony, let's say more successful fulfillment of my needs. And so I think it's crucial that once we get some gifts like that, we share it, or else it actually starts creating pain or upset or some kind of imbalance anyways inside that doesn't feel so good. So that's one reason, and otherwise a little bit more out there. I love to see people benefit. Just the joy of serving is great.
So it's 1 point for you to grow as well, and another point to share that that growth with other, and see other people grow in that respect.
Yeah, I love it to sort of share and almost like let the fruit be given, and then just the joy of doing that feels great.
Okay, what's your definition of empathy?
It's a good one. I'm not sure I have a one set definition. It might change all the time. A way that I like to say quickly in sort of soundbite format is putting yourself in somebody's shoes. What I experience more when I really do it, almost like an inner skill, maybe a spiritual skill or invisible skill anyways, is I actually sort of become a person. At least I kind of really resonate with them sort of in first person, like I am experiencing what they might be trying to speak or share, and that helps me get the insights of, hey, what needs are met or not met, or what feelings are going on. In fact, I mentioned before, I work with dreams a lot, and many times I see people have different ways of saying it, but dreams like vicarious dreams, or dreams where they are somebody else. In fact, it's only after waking they say, well, I was my friend, or I was this celebrity, or I was some other animal or something. But they experience it really first person. So my definition is a little bit more experience-based, I guess.
Okay, so it's yeah, either in an awake state or a dreaming state to feel and be, yeah, the other person.
Yeah.
Do you have any painful feelings? Or what are painful feelings you have around being an empathy trainer or teacher?
Well, one of the questions I mentioned on the question list was, hey, what's a good way to get across the idea in sort of the media lingo, but soundbite format, or something that's kind of brief, maybe on a brochure or in a short call or on an interview or something, in a way that people don't just think, oh, I know how to communicate, or I know how to connect with people, I know how to listen. What's a way to get it across with, I don't know, flair or interesting language, or a short example that would get people into it easily? Since there seems to be a humongous need for many, many people to learn this thing that we say empathy, except everybody has a different interpretation or experience of what empathy is, and I think a lot of people are missing some of the richness of it.
Yeah. What would be painful for you in that?
The painful part is, I guess, sort of sharing some of the gifts, maybe reeling in more and more clients, and just the almost resonating pain. If I realize somebody has a lot of room to learn some skills that might be really enriching, it's painful for me not to have the best way to kind of share it or get them inspired to take action and commit a little bit. Maybe a little bit like, I forget who it was it Catherine or somebody was sharing before, but the 53-hour commitment. So that if they want to take a leap, they have to make a bit of a commitment, and how can I help sort of use marketing or inspiration to get them to commit a little more to something that feels tremendously valuable. Otherwise, it feels a little painful that a great opportunity or hope was lost, didn't happen.
Okay. Let me see. I'm looking through questions. Do you have obstacles when, or are you aware of any obstacles when you try to be empathic?
Sure. It reminds me of a story, Stefan. When I don't know if you met or had a chance to read or watch videos of Marshall Rosenberg, but I had the really good fortune to train with him for about 7 years off and on. And one time, I'm a recovering thinkaholic, by the way. I'm a physicist with science mind, very objective world training originally, and then later emotions and intuition and things. But at the start, I didn't really know any of these emotional skills because I wasn't trained in it. But in one of the workshops Marshall was demonstrating, he said, would anybody like to volunteer? And sort of offering empathy to this person. I said, okay, I'll do it. And I said all the words right. He said, you said it perfectly, you did you got all the needs correctly, but it didn't work at all because you gave false empathy. So the obstacle is kind of, it's an invisible, strange thing where your identity and I guess your attention shifts to something that's not quite obvious. So that's been a bit of an obstacle, but hopefully I'm moving forward a bit.
Okay, I didn't.
That was the. Oh, did you want to finish something, Stefan?
No, it's fine. Thanks.
Okay.
Hey, thanks, Stefan. Interesting.
Thanks.
Okay, thank you. And then Craig, if you'd like to interview me.
Oh, great. Just pull up the questions here. I've missed the questions anyways. Well, the first one's great. Maybe that was from you originally, Edwin. Why are you interested in forming the International Empathy Trainers Association? I guess.
So yeah, yeah. What's the need under creating this association? Well, I've been working on this area of empathy for quite a while, and I'm really looking to get more traction. It's like been doing a lot of work. I don't know how really effective it's been, and I think that so one of the needs is effectiveness. I think if we get together, that we can, there would be really addressing a need for effectiveness. So if we're talking about a pain, maybe a pain is feeling, like a lack of effectiveness in terms of really spreading the word about empathy. Also is for a sense of community, that wanting kind of a deeper community around empathy. So I feel that, like, here we have, like, what is it, 6, 7, 8 of us here. So I feel like this is the beginning of developing relationships and community. So it's that part of it, and also that I guess going back to effectiveness it's just so common for every trade to create an association to advocate for its interests, I guess, or for its needs. So there's the Cattlemen's Association, right, that raise cattle. There's the Potato Growers Association, advocating for potato growers. I mean, you just name the topic, and there's an association for it, and they go and they lobby, they lobby Congress, and they kind of get, Congress or the government to kind of, support them in one way or another. And so I think that, empathy trainers can do the same thing, that we can lobby, for this interest of bringing empathy. If we have, someone mentioned we have a stronger voice, right? If we come together with one voice, we can advocate for bringing empathy into the schools, bringing it into the somebody mentioned the military, that why isn't there empathy training in the military? So so I guess that's for effectiveness. Kind of, I don't know what that is, the voice having more impact, or kind of being heard, I guess, is one thing. So those are a couple of things that come to mind right off the bat.
Like increased outreach. The community, I don't know exactly where it would end, so as you interest and reach and, I guess, offer trainings to more people, it increases that second need, a lot of a greater community who is interested in learning empathy. Is that true?
Yeah, and the effectiveness too. I think that I'm looking at, I'm working on building a online empathy training MOOC, something that would be, and so bringing more people in that can contribute to that MOOC. So how do we get the word out about empathy? So I think that would, I guess, having our voice heard better, and the collaboration that could come out of all this.
More efficiency that comes with the synergy of teamwork, and as well as the joy of the teamwork.
I had started with the idea we're going to create a cultural revolution of empathy, like an empathy movement will transform the world if we just had a more empathic world, if empathy became a core value within global culture, that that would really do, really, I mean, the world would be just so much a better place, and there'd be so much more connection, and so I actually set up an empathy tent downtown Berkeley, and I thought, well, I'll plant the flag, and for 2 weeks, almost 2 weeks, over a 3-month period, I was there, and people are coming by saying, oh, this is really great what you're doing, but I don't have time for helping out, So that was kind of frustrating, and so I really thought that we need a really good training, and then to create that training, getting trainers together, I thought would be supportive of that. So that's kind of one. That's kind of one aspect of it. Yeah. So that's.
Okay, so coming up with, I guess, different ideas from a larger team for creative strategies like that. Sounds like the Berkeley tent was a lot of fun. I like Berkeley too.
Yeah, it was.
Pool our resources, pool our wisdom, pool some of our creativity to help reach more people in a fun way.
Yeah, and eventually, actually, I had set up the empathy tent downtown Berkeley at the BART station. There's 16,000 people go through that station a day. And then I also had set up with some students on the Sproul Plaza, which was the home of the free speech movement. And so I was saying, we have free speech, but nobody's listening, right? So what we need is a free empathy movement. I thought we could get a kickstart, a free empathy movement on Sproul Plaza, but people just don't understand empathy. You know, they just don't. So I'm really seeing we need a really good, simple training, you know, for that free empathy movement. So, you know.
Well, I could really resonate with that. It's kind of led to my question, if I heard you correctly, kind of that way to bring it out there more in fun community way, efficient to synergistic, where we can use other people's skills. So what do you think is in like a short, like on your tent banner or in the little ad in the paper, you know, happening this week, or maybe the 10-second soundbite or 15 seconds on the radio when you get to mention your event? What do you think is an effective way to bring some of what we're trying to bring across?
Yeah, what is effective?
Like catchy titles?
Yeah, I didn't have one. I guess I didn't. I had the title, you know, we have the free speech movement, but nobody's listening. We need a free empathy movement and start
I like that one.
building relationships.
I like that one. That was good. That resonates a bit. So creative ideas. Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess. What's your definition too? Like if you're saying.
Oh, the definition for me, for this, just simple. It's feeling into the experience of self and others. So I really base it on the feeling, and I also say that it can get that empathy is an umbrella term, and you know there's a lot of different definitions under that. But the most simple is just feeling our way into someone else's experience.
Okay, that sounds pretty good.
Okay, well, thanks. That was the time. So I interview Mike. Thank you for that. And I'll interview Michael. Okay, and it's on page 7. Next, let me put it down to page 8 if you're going to do transcriptions there. And remember. So, Michael, what are the kind of the pain points you have around being a trainer? Like what is kind of the unmet needs you have? Like, what is causing you pain of one sort or other?
One of the biggest things I notice is that when I tell people I'm an empathy trainer, I get 2 common responses. Well, there's some that are favorable, but 2 of the ones that are painful for me to hear. One is, can you really train empathy?
Mm-hmm.
And the other is, oh, you have to be careful about having too much empathy.
Uh-huh.
And both of those are such painful things for me to hear, because one is like, of course you can train empathy. Of course it's something that we can all learn. And the other thing is that when people say, oh, you have to be careful about having too much empathy, then I think, oh, wow, like there are so many people who don't understand what empathy really is. And I wish that there was greater understanding about what empathy truly is, so that we could be having this discussion more easily. Because when we create an Empathy Trainers Association, it's great, but that for the empathy trainers, but there's all those other people out there in the world who see that and they're saying, you got to be careful about having too much empathy, or they're saying, can't really train empathy. So it's like those people that I really want to touch and to reach. And something that you said, Edwin, of how you believe you want to make empathy part of the culture, you know, a global movement to make empathy a cultural norm for humanity, and how that could change the planet and help turn things around, because there's some things that are happening right now that aren't well. And I believe that, and I do really want to help be a part of that movement, to bringing that consciousness into the world. But right now the word empathy is so misunderstood. It's not helping to connect people. And so I want to help make that word more widely understood, or create a common meaning about it. And if it's not empathy, then find another word. But I want to have a common language so that we don't have to keep arguing about semantics, and we can just get on the same page and get to work doing the work that needs to be done to make this world a better place.
So is the need a sense of understanding, mutual understanding and mutual connection, and that's the pain of not having that connection and understanding?
Yeah, and how so much time is wasted or spent on trying to like explain what empathy means or what it is and what it isn't, instead of just saying we need it, let's get down to business and learn it and practice it.
Mm-hmm. So what? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
So I guess, you know, that's part of our responsibility, is to help create a common definition and spread the meaning in a
Mm-hmm.
wider way.
So you're saying there's a lack of understanding and a lack of connection, and that our kind of mutual job here could be to create that understanding and create that mutual understanding.
Yeah, to start to bring the conversation into the public sphere around, look, there's so many people arguing about what the definition of empathy is, it's really confusing for the general public. Can we get on board here in creating a cohesive meaning so that we're not
Mm-hmm.
confusing people
Mm-hmm.
and pushing them away from something that I believe is crucial to the well-being of people and our planet.
So the pain point there is a sense of confusion and disconnection and misunderstanding. That's what I'm hearing.
Yeah, I would say, yeah, there is confusion, and what's painful for me is this sense of uh, wasted. It's like we're wasting our precious time arguing about whether empathy is a good thing or a bad thing. It's like we need something. I don't care what we call it, but we need this thing. This thing is connection. This thing is understanding. This thing is getting each other in a deeper way. I don't care what word we put on it, but we need it. And so can we just come up with a word for it that we can say that this is what humanity needs, this is what the planet needs, and get to work on helping to get that in schools, get that in families, get that in businesses. And right now, empathy seems like the closest word that we have.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going with that one.
Okay, great. Then that was the time. So what we could do now is take maybe 5 minutes and go over your own interview and kind of clean it up a little bit. We'll just take so you can find where you were interviewed, and let's just clean that up, and then we'll move on to the next phase. Because I'd like to take these and add, send it out in an email to our association list so people can see this. So we should try to clean it up as much as possible. And 5 minutes, just the initial cleaning up.
I don't have access to the chat, Edwin, for some reason. I mean, the document.
It's not coming up for you, or I'm putting the link in again. Is that?
Yeah, I got it now. Yeah.
It's not letting me edit now. Oh, there we go. Leave. We have about 1 minute left. Okay, that was the time. So we have, we're going to go for an hour and a half this meeting, so we have about 15 minutes. So with this time, we could just kind of open it up to what are next steps that we'd like to do. I'm having a little trouble editing the document. Is it working for everyone else, or anyone else having trouble?
I have big troubles. I can't open it or edit it.
Oh, okay.
It was working for me.
It worked for me, but I'm not sure if my shared version came to you.
A little bit intermittent for having the characters come.
No, that's too bad. Usually it's pretty reliable. Okay. So, yeah, so we can just go around. What are ideas for next steps? We have a meeting on the 22nd to continue, the discussion. Maybe we could do the same process, just asking each other like what you'd like to do next. You go, Michael, if you want to talk about. We can either just open it up or do kind of little interviews, like 1 or 2 minutes. Have a preference?
I could just speak to what I think
Okay.
Could be next steps or how we could proceed from my perspective.
Right. Good.
So I think what's really important, create a really clear, common understanding of what we're talking about when we use the word empathy. Especially as a group, if we're going to be talking about ways to train empathy, I think we all have to be unified on understanding what empathy is. So I would be curious to explore both the similarities and differences that we have in our definitions of empathy as a community.
Okay, so what I'm hearing there is it's really important that we have a shared understanding of empathy and then hear from everyone kind of what their definitions are. And yeah,
hearing from people would be one way that we could help to come to that. I don't know if that's necessarily the only way, but it is a possibility. But ultimately, I think what I'm saying is that I think if we're going to create an empathy trainers association, we have to have a clear understanding and be on the same page for what empathy is.
Okay, so I wrote down create a common and clear understanding of what empathy is.
Great.
Okay. And actually, what is the problem? If we have so that's kind of like a solution. The problem is.
I guess the problem would be with the lack of common understanding of what empathy is, then we're bound to contribute to the confusion around empathy.
Okay, so we're talking about a problem is a lack of common understanding is creating a confusion. So the project would be is to create a common and clear understanding of what empathy is, and how could we go about doing that? Any ideas?
Well, you know, as you said, like one way is we could all hear each other's definitions. Another way is we could create, you know, sort of like a wiki. You know how Wikipedia has definitions that sort of everybody contributes to and edits over time, and they sort of eventually settle into a more or less stable definition based on the people who are contributing to editing the definition. That's another possibility. Um, I would say that we would probably start to discover that there are a lot of similarities, and people might be using different words to describe similar experiences. So starting to look at different ways of using language, and where different words were being used to represent similar meaning.
Anyone else have ideas about that? Like, how would we go about doing that? I have one idea is that there's a person I know, Rosa, she does a problem called empathic inquiry. So you pose a question, and then everyone goes around and shares their comments on it, and it all gets kind of organized um, and formed and kind of gets shaped. So we hear everyone's story and ideas about the definition, and then it kind of takes shape, and you can create a final report. So that would be one kind of methodology, and the other one I was hearing is to create a wiki. And we do have the Empathy Literature Review Project does have a wiki, and there is kind of the academic definitions of empathy that we're working on. And so those are just some ideas. I don't know if anyone else wants to throw some more steps in. I guess one question would be is, would you be willing to kind of lead a definition project like that? You know, kind of help organize something?
Yeah, I'm not clear yet on what would be the most effective way to do that. So I guess what I would be willing to commit to at this point is helping to figure out what would be an effective way to do that.
Okay. How about we hold a meeting? Well, we can schedule a meeting at one point, and the whole thing would be geared to, and you could lead it, would be geared towards creating that definition. So you can just facilitate like an hour and a half, 2-hour meeting where we kind of start that. Would you be willing to do that?
Sure. Sounds great.
So we just have to schedule it, and we can just talk about scheduling.
Mm-hmm.
If we get a quick round, how does everybody else feel about this aspect of the definitions? Kind of having a shared definition.
I think it's important to have a clear definition. Sorry, Stefan, you were going to speak. Go ahead.
You're muted, Stefan.
Yeah, I kind of like the idea of being a work in progress and not having to decide on a particular definition. What my idea would be is while the discussion about the definition would be going on and the process and would be ongoing, and let it be ongoing, because as there's probably very many definitions, and it probably would be more a collection. What interests me most would be, even when people don't really understand what empathy is, how can you show them? What practical steps can you do and facilitate? What's the best practices people have in order to show people what empathy looks like for them and let them experience themselves? So kind of sharing best practices, I guess.
Okay, so I was hearing there is don't get a too fixed definition, keep it kind of open, and so that it's like a work in progress, and also that the definition is, it's not just like a definition, but it's an actual experience. Can we have part of the definition be experiencing empathy?
Yeah, how can people experience empathy or get started without having to understand the definition or agree with the definition?
They don't have to like agree, like everybody agreeing, but let's just jump right in and experience it to begin with. Okay.
Exactly.
Okay, cool. So that can be all part of the training, I mean the exploration. We can, when we do that theme, that topic, then these are kind of ideas. Raj, you had something?
Well, I think I'm liking, enjoyed what Stefan just said. It's not really about being able to define it. It's about being able to demonstrate and create an experience about empathy. And each person who, like the focusing group or any other group, when they have their definition of empathy, how can we experience what they're bringing so that it's less about the words and the definition. It's about how we being in the process of empathy that becomes more important.
Just building on what you just shared, Raj, what do you think video, like just a video on YouTube or video as a general thing would be a valid format for that, or it has to be live?
I think the video, the visuals are very helpful. Just the facial expression, the change in the demeanor when somebody just feels heard and is so relieved that somebody finally gets what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So it's not so much, and they sit back and they relax a little bit and say, "You got that from what I just said?"
So videos. I mentioned it just for sharing it with a wider audience. If it's a video, you don't have to be there when they're watching it.
Yeah. So that you don't, they can create their own definitions by visualizing and experiencing that conversation. They get the essence of what is empathy.
Yeah, sounds like an effective strategy.
Okay, so it sounds like we one project that we can move forward with, facilitated by Michael, will be creating a definition of empathy, but also the experience of it and finding ways of conveying what it is, not just as a definition, but through the experiences, creating maybe videos, coming up with other ideas that would actually show moments of deep empathy. I'm excited about that idea. So let's see. I want to keep. We were going for an hour and a half. How is everyone's time? Does anybody need to take off now, or I can go for another half hour if anyone wants to stay to keep going. But I want to keep on the time frame too.
Oh, well, thanks for checking in, Edwin, Craig. Just a ton of appreciation for your passion and, I guess, devotion, things that it can inspire me for this. I'll right now need to kind of head out because I sort of have the time slot booked.
Okay.
But it doesn't mean in the future I wouldn't want to contribute and join in and offer. But I love that you sort of did it efficiently, that we have like a transcript, not just for us, but maybe for others. So it feels more efficient. In that goal that you had before about getting it out there efficiently, it seems to be happening here in their call. Appreciation for that, and thanks for the good energy. And everybody, I'd love to connect with you again soon.
Oh, great. Well, thanks for taking part. It's a real pleasure having you here.
Cheers.
I've enjoyed the call, and I imagine that we will continue to meet and enjoy learning from and with each other. And I'd like to offer my appreciation for, Edwin, your real enthusiasm about creating this community and bringing wonderful people to the table for this conversation. Seems like a wonderful kitchen table conversation. And I've enjoyed meeting each of you, and I will also excuse myself now.
Okay, the next meeting is the 22nd, so we would right now it's scheduled every 2 weeks at this same time slot. So
even as I'm ready to sign off, I'm wondering what will I be missing. There's so much enthusiasm and learning on the call.
Okay, well, great. Thanks for coming back for the second time.
You're welcome. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye.
I have a question, Edwin. The
Yeah.
next meeting will be like continuation of this meeting? I mean, in the next
I'm not quite sure yet. Oh, I think that's kind of one thing we could talk about. What is an effective way of going forward, too? What I was hearing is one way of going forward is that Michael could facilitate a meeting that is about the definitions. You know, we could schedule that. So if you have some ideas on what effective ways for going forward is, what I was looking at is using the human-centered design process. And the human-centered design process is where you first hear what people's needs are, and then you start defining what some problem areas are. Then we create a point, like one problem area we're hearing here is that Michael is talking about the definition, like having shared understanding, and then we brainstorm about solutions, and then we come up with some prototypes and then test those. So that's the human-centered or empathic design process that I think is very powerful. So I'm kind of going along that process, and we can hear other, problem areas and then create projects around those. So the first step we were really trying to do is like, where are the pain points that everyone has? And then kind of hone in on those pain points and see if we can design solutions for those pain points. So I guess I'm saying I'm not quite sure the next meeting is going to be continuing finding the pain points and then trying to design some kind of meetings or groups around moving forward with that. I don't know, does that make sense? Or
Yes, yes. But for me, it will be those different definitions of empathy without trying to find one only, but to know, as Michael said, to know the meaning in which we use that word. That will help us to understand better each other when we talk about empathy.
so that resonates with you? I didn't quite hear, it was breaking up a little bit. So that resonates with you, is finding a common definition or a common understanding? Is that what you said? I don't know.
I will say common understanding,
Mm-hmm.
not necessarily a common definition. Maybe there are several definitions, but if we have clear the way that each one is understood, that would have communication. So maybe, for example, we could write our definitions, so to speak, of empathy. We could put it together, and then we could talk about that.
Okay, so I'm hearing that in advance everybody writes up a definition, and then when we meet, that we share those written definitions that we have as part of the process?
Yes.
Okay. And that would be Michael, since you'd kind of be leading it, you could incorporate that.
Sounds like a great idea.
I'm writing this down too, so.
I've kind of heard 3 different pain points, if we're going to talk about it those terms, where there's that disconnect of not being connected to other practitioners that are doing the work. So connecting to other practitioners sounds like maybe a part of the purpose of the organization. The other thing I heard was the effectiveness aspect of getting empathy like in or out in the world in an effective way, and that seems to be connected to training. With Michael's want or pain point around this lack of maybe focus or clarity, and I'm sorry if I didn't get the word just right, around a definition of empathy, my pain point comes up. So, um, so I'm really grateful that you started that conversation, Michael. But I really worry about that because I think one of the most important aspects of empathy, however you define it, is relating to the other as they are, and that includes the differences within a community that might come together that understands or uses empathy differently. But I also see a way to do both that might be effective for everyone and also kind of speak to those, the issues that kind of come up. So, we could do something where we talk about the scope of difference within the definitions of empathy. And if you want to work with a practitioner who defines empathy this way, this is where here are this group of people that believe or are committed to empathy as a feeling, a walking with or walking in another's shoes. And then there's these other groups that teach it differently, and what those differences are, so that the individuals who are seeking that out can choose for themselves what is the good fit for them, and simultaneously teaching them about the work of empathy. Because if we mash away those differences, we've just sort of undone some of what the whole purpose of empathy is to be with the other as they are, not as, so I think there's space for all of it. I hope there's space for all of it, and I think it's great that you brought it up, and it kind of got me thinking in a very different way, so I'm grateful for that. And I think that that's part of the piece that I'm worried about is, I teach empathy as a skill. It is not a feeling. It is a choice that you make to be with the other, because in that realm it's accessible to, in my space, to everyone. It's not something that you have to grow or practice or learn in that way. You can make a choice to be empathic, whether it's empathically listening or empathy. And I think there's a space for that. I think that makes it accessible to a lot of people who don't necessarily anchor in their emotions, but anchor in their will, and I think that that space is important to create. So that's kind of where I'm at.
Okay, I can reflect what I was hearing there. I was hearing you started off saying there was 3 pain points that you were seeing. The first one was kind of the social disconnection. So that's more like, as trainers, that we may feel disconnected, and that how might we create more social connection and support between each other. Is that kind of the first one that you're saying?
Yeah.
And then the second one is kind of effectiveness. I wasn't quite sure. Are you seeing the definition as part of the effectiveness, or that's?
I think it might be connected. If we define empathy as learning to be with another, right? Then there's a set of trainings that could expand that and make that accessible to a wide variety of people. So I think it's connected to what Michael was talking about. But I hear effectiveness anchored to trainings. I heard everyone kind of go training. So I think that that's the expansion part that, Edwin, you were talking about earlier. So it's the training aspect, and do we have those available to people?
Okay, so it's training, effective training. Is that?
I actually picked up on your part, which is to see it spread. In order to see it spread, training has to be available to people.
Okay. So that was the effectiveness of spreading empathy in the world. We have to have it spread as a value and a way of being in the society. We're going to have effective training.
Right.
Is kind of, and that's a pain point of it's not spreading, or not being, we're not effectively spreading it. And then the third one is around the definition one, and that's, again, we're getting back to Michael's point of how do we want to relate with everybody's definition of empathy. It's like there's no one kind of right or wrong way, but we want to kind of empathize with where everyone is. And they kind of have an openness and a scope of the different definitions of empathy and how people are hear how they're kind of defining the word or the experience.
Yes, and I think leveraging those differences is key, because that's when you talk about expanding empathy, leveraging those differences and how we all are in the world and how we use that differently, it matters a great deal, because different people are going to gravitate towards different aspects of that.
Okay, so it's like, what are the differences, and then actually, leveraging, using those differences. So it's almost like creating a typology. Like, what's the typology of everyone's definition? So it's not like, here's this one definition. It's like, here's the spectrum of definitions that different people have, and then kind of leveraging that, and maybe then we can address where people are and speak to that.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. And then again, I think that part comes into the, it's more feedback for Michael's, for your you're leading that workshop or that meeting. So this is all kind of good kind of input. I think we're already kind of like working on your workshop.
Right.
Preparing it. So, okay. So, yeah, then, so what do we do next time? And what would be, I think to begin with, I'm kind of looking at doing the needs finding first. It's almost creating a typology of the needs that we have, so that was really helpful. We have the connection part, the effectiveness part, the definition part. What are other needs that people have? And we can go back to what the interviews that we did and start kind of creating that typology of where's everybody's needs and how do we create strategies and approaches for addressing those. So I guess I'm still in the needs finding, thinking of the needs finding, really hearing those stories of what everybody's needing and starting to create a, a typology of those needs.
So it sounds like what you're suggesting, Edwin, is that maybe the next call is we're still trying to identify the pain points so we can get more clear around the needs.
Yeah. And start creating a bit of a typology of those needs. Can we create a list of, clearly expressed needs so we have those to kind of guide us? Has anyone done the human-centered design process? Are you familiar with that process? Oh yeah, you did it with that workshop. So one thing I would like to kind of get everyone in the association familiar with is the design process, because they have a whole process for finding needs, and then you create what they call empathy maps, which are kind of cool. So we start creating, if you look up, just do a Google search on empathy maps, you'll see these maps. That I was thinking maybe a next step is once we find people's needs and experiences, that we can actually create some empathy maps for everyone. And that might be kind of a next step to kind of get everyone familiar with creating empathy maps, and we do that for everyone. And then as we create the association, it gives us a reference point so that we don't get, so we're really keeping everybody's needs in mind. So we're kind of, and that I can send some info on the human-centered design, but it's really kind of, I think, a really great process for designing an association. If somebody would like to reflect that back, that would, Michael, that's pretty good.
Yeah, I think that's like what I was hearing was around continuing to explore what the needs are of people around an Empathy Trainers Association, and using the process of human-centered design, in particular the empathy maps, so that we could have a really clear understanding of what the needs of people were behind the creation of the association, and that would help to ensure that the work that we did was work that was going to help get everyone's needs met.
Exactly, yeah. So how does that sound? Was any kind of thoughts, feedback on that?
Sounds good to me.
It sounds fine to me. It sounds fine to me.
Oh, great.
What I like about it is
Stefan?
that you it sounded that you meant it for the future as well. So it's still be something to have in mind and look back on those empathy maps when new stuff is created and still keep that in mind. So I really like this.
Right, yeah. Jennifer, any feedback on that?
No feedback. It sounds a lot like appreciative inquiry to me, which is something I'm familiar with. So
Right.
I'm gonna take a. I'm not familiar with it, so I'll take a look at the empathy maps. If I've got
Okay.
something, I'll send it.
Yeah, within the design process, they start with interviews. So they have a lot of tools for doing interviews and finding what people's needs are. Then you create the empathy maps. From the empathy maps, you create a user profile. And then as we start designing the association, we always hold the profile of all the members in mind, and we can kind of check back. Are we really addressing the needs? Like, I'm hearing a strong need from Michael. We wants to really hear this shared, understanding and meaning about empathy. So we want to hold that in mind. And everyone else had, I think, Jennifer, yours was more about meeting people where they are. Is that? I'll have to go back. We'll kind of go back and look at the interviews to kind of really hone in on getting clear on what everybody's needs are. And I was hearing for Salvador that yours is about training, like students. I can't quite remember, but so we'll just kind of hone in on getting really clear on what everybody's needs are to begin with. Okay. Then with that, it sounds like, oh, yes, yeah.
Yeah, what would be then the next step to do?
The next step, I think, will be to maybe do another round of interviews and get clear on the first step would be go through the interviews that we did, and let's try to read through them and really kind of get familiar with the interviews that we did, because I find that by going back over the interviews, it kind of sinks in better, and start kind of organizing them a little bit, and then we'll send those out to the email list. I think there's about 70 people on the list, and maybe start a discussion around that, get clear on the needs, meet again to do maybe a little bit deeper needs finding. Usually with human-centered design, you'll do like a half-hour or an hour interview. So we've just done quick, initial interviews. So we want to get a little bit deeper on the interviews. And then we can have a meeting where we actually go through and take the interviews and then create these empathy maps. That can be kind of a learning experience for us too. And then that would be kind of like a next step. So I think you'll find it really interesting, the human-centered design process, which is used for designing anything. You can design a culture, a service, a product, and it's actually called empathic design in some quarters. So that's kind of the word that I like to use for it. So that's so how does that sound for next time? We kind of do another round of deepening the interviews, read over the material that we've got here, and
Sounds good to me.
good. Okay, we got consensus.
Yeah, very good.
All right.
Yes, sounds good.
Then great. Then should we just do one like? Oh, I know what we can do. If I was going to do, the thing is this. Within the design process, usually when you end the meeting, you have I like, I wish, what if, as a question. So what did you like about the meeting? And like I like, I wish, what if. And unfortunately, we can't write it down. It's better when we write it down. But I'll start. So I really like I love being together with other people who are interested in empathy. It's like I like the sense of the relationship building that's happening, and so I really like that and feel pretty excited about it. as well as I wish everybody comes back, and then we keep building on this. So that's what I wish. So can we just go around with everybody a quick closing?
Well, I'll go. I think I like the same same thing that you said. It's really fun to hear everyone and get to meet people, and the rounds of questions was kind of fun. It was nice to connect with Salvador and with Stefan. Am I saying your name correct, Stefan? Am I saying it correctly?
Yeah,
Okay, good.
Stefan.
Good. And I wish, it's always fun to do this like this, but I also like the in-person stuff. So I mean, I think that is always something wonderful to get together for a couple days and really dig in. I don't know about a what if.
It sounds like, what if we get some meetings, in-person meetings going?
Yeah, but maybe that'll come as it goes. So thank you, and thank you all. It was nice to meet you all. And Edwin, thanks for doing this and putting this together.
I'll go next. I also like getting to share this space with people who are also passionate about empathy, and it's fun to explore our differences. So I'm grateful for the opportunity to do that. I wish there was a way to transmute meaning without using words. And in this world that we live in, I don't think that's the way it works. So I wish. No, I did that one. I wish. What was the last one?
What if?
What if we could show people what empathy means? What if we could do that without needing to explain it? What if there was a way? That's a fun question to explore.
Okay, thank you. Salvador or Stefan?
I really like that I found this call and the way and I really like that it works over that distance and that there's an instant connection over something. I wish, yeah, to maybe be a part of it. And what if yeah, this ripples out and there's a continuity to it, and I'd say that it could be really powerful. Yeah, what if that happens?
Okay, thanks, Salvador.
I really enjoy being with you, listening to you, and sharing this opportunity to meet people who are also interested in empathy. I'm thank you very much to all of you. And I wish I will be more fluently in my English. Sometimes I feel like it's a little bit hard to say or to express all that I would like to express, but I hope to be getting there with practice. And what if we could find a way to share our hopes, our fears, our sources to build in our everyday life a more understanding interactions with the people with whom we live every day.
Nice. Okay, well, with that, we'll close the meeting. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next week, same time, and we shall continue. And
Thanks,
also
everybody.
on the discussion list. Is everybody on the email list? Hopefully, so we can continue the dialogue on the association email list.
Okay.
Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks a lot.